Welcome back to Football Daily for this week's edition of Transfer Talk. We have a bumper show lined up for you today filled with all the rumours concerning the Premier League's biggest names. Let's jump straight into it. We kick off this week's roundup in North London, where Arsenal continue to make waves in the market. Multiple sources claim that Mikel Arteta's side have made a third bid for Brighton's Ben White, and deals for Nuno Tavares and Lokonga are expected to be completed in the coming days. In terms of exits, well, it's even busier, with Ceballos and Odegaard returning to Real Madrid, Granit Xhaka expected to join Mourinho's Roma, and Guendouzi and Saliba expected to follow them out the door. But according to Sky Sports News, the cull isn't done there, with Lacazette, Nelson and Ainsley Maitland-Niles also expected to leave the Emirates before the window slams shut on the 31st of August. There will be very little surprise amongst Arsenal fans about AMN's departure. After all, he spent the second half of last season on loan at Sam Allardyce's West Brom, or Reece Nelson, given he only featured 8 times under Arteta in 2020-21. But Lacazette, while inconsistent at points, carried Arsenal's attack with Aubameyang under par after facing a range of personal and medical issues throughout the season. Lacazette scored 17 goals to finish as the Gunners' top scorer for the second time in 4 seasons. However, with the 16-cap Frenchman having turned 30 at the end of May, perhaps Arteta believes he can't afford to keep him and Aubameyang, with the Gabonese having signed a 3-year contract worth close to £55 million in September 2020. Having finished outside of the top 4 for the 5th consecutive season, it was clear that major surgery was needed in Arsenal's squad, and Arteta and Edu's ruthless decisiveness is to be applauded. But we can't help thinking that with the new Premier League season kicking off in just 5 weeks, this is a lot of change for one club to go through in just a single window. Which club do you think will make a move for Lacazette though, and how much do you think he's worth? Get your thoughts in the comments below. Speaking of exits, Lacazette isn't the only big name player facing the chop this summer. That's because, according to the Manchester Evening News, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is considering sending David De Gea out on loan for the 2021-22 campaign. The 30-year-old endured a season to forget, losing his starting spot to Dean Henderson in early March, being recalled for the latter stages of the Europa League, only to miss the decisive penalty in the final against Villarreal, and he's been on the bench throughout Spain's Euros campaign. The former Atletico Madrid stopper still has 2 years remaining on his current £375,000 per week deal, making it highly unlikely that any club would be able to afford to sign him permanently. But having brought in former academy graduate Tom Heaton a few weeks ago, it appears that United are now in the position to send him out on a temporary basis, an enormous step down for the club's 4-time Player of the Year, just as he was supposed to be entering his prime. There are, however, contrasting reports, with ESPN's Rob Dawson claiming that Solskjaer is yet to decide about who will be his number 1, and that De Gea is keen to return and fight for his starting spot. And even if United were happy to let him leave, finding a suitor is going to be challenging. The club consistently linked with him over the last few years, Real Madrid, are incredibly happy with Courtois, PSG are close to bringing in 22-year-old Donnarumma, and despite plenty of speculation over the last year, Jan Oblak seems almost certain to stay at Atleti. If you were Solskjaer, what would you do? Keep De Gea and risk upsetting Henderson and the Spaniard, or agree to supplement some of his wages to get him off the books? You know what to do. We head back to London now, where one of Chelsea's players is being eyed up by a European giant. According to Corriere dello Sport, AC Milan are looking to sign Blues forward Hakim Ziyech, who has struggled to nail down a starting spot at Stamford Bridge last term. The article claims that the Rossoneri were initially keen on bringing James Rodriguez to the club, with the Colombian reportedly considering his future in light of Carlo Ancelotti's departure. But with his wage demands supposedly astronomical, it appears that Stefano Pioli has earmarked Ziyech as the perfect replacement for Hakan Çalhanoğlu, who has of course crossed the Milan divide. It would be a shame to lose Ziyech, who, despite being in and out of the side under both Lampard and Tuchel, he still contributed a solid 6 goals and 4 assists in 39 appearances. He also popped up with some crucial moments towards the back end of the campaign, not least with goals against City in the League and FA Cup, and a strike against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League quarter-finals. But if Tuchel is going to persist with his 3-4-3 formation, Mount, Havertz and Werner are clearly ahead of him in the pecking order in the forward positions, and Chelsea still harbour ambitions of bringing in a striker this summer. The positive news from a Chelsea perspective is that having signed a 5-year contract after a £36 million fee was agreed between the Blues and Ajax, there is a chance that the club managed to turn a profit on the 28-year-old, or at least get close to. Corriere also claimed that the Rossoneri are keen to bring Blues reject Bakayoko back to the club, as well as Olivier Giroud, in what could be a triple swoop of Chelsea offcuts. AC Milan fans, what do you make of Ziyech's potential arrival? And what other positions do you need to strengthen? To South London now, where Patrick Vieira is currently experiencing his first full week as manager of Crystal Palace. He faces an enormous squad overhaul with players such as Gary Cahill, Scott Dann, Wayne Hennessy, Mamadou Sakho, James McCarthy and Patrick Van Aanholt having been released at the end of last season. The former New York City FC and Nice boss, who is behind Nuno and Lucien Favre in the pecking order, has a very full inbox. But we can bring you the news that he has identified Celtics Ryan Christie as his primary summer target. The Parkhead forward only has 6 months remaining on his current contract and could be available for a cut price fee this summer. The Daily Mail claimed that the former Arsenal midfielder has been watching Christie for some time, having initially been impressed by him during Celtic's Europa League games against his former club Nice in 2019, when he scored both home and away against the Red and Blacks. The only issue is that current Nice boss Christophe Galtier is reportedly keen on taking Christie to the south of France. Hoops boss Ange Postecoglou has made it perfectly clear that he only wants players who are fully committed to the club, meaning that this is a transfer that could actually happen. With the 26-year-old having scored 4 and assisted 8 in 29 league games last term, and a crucial playoff goal during Scotland's qualification for Euro 2020, he appears ready for the step up. Palace fans, would this signing excite you, and where should Vieira look to strengthen first? Answers in the comments section please. And finally, it's time for our headline story, and it concerns a club that many thought had conducted pretty good business this summer, Barcelona. For months now, we've been reading about just how much debt the Blaugrana were in, and were therefore surprised that they managed to sign Emerson, Depay, Aguero and Eric Garcia, albeit the final 3 on free transfers. But it now appears that they have hit a major stumbling block and won't actually be able to register them at all. Yes, that's right, according to esteemed football analyst Zach Lowy, Barcelona won't be able to register their new signings after exceeding the La Liga's salary limit, unless they reduce their wage bill by €200 million. They may have already made moves to do this by loaning Francisco Trincao to Wolves and releasing Matias Fernandes from his contract that was set to expire in 2025. But it appears they have a lot more work to do. Just quickly before we get into that though, let's talk about the case of Matias Fernandes, which goes some way to explain the ineptitude of the Bartomeu reign. He was signed in January 2020 for €7 million on a 5-year deal, and was immediately loaned to Rayo Vallecano. He only ever made 1 appearance for Barcelona and now intends to sue the club for unjust dismissal, having never even been officially presented as a player. This is just the tip of the iceberg though. According to multiple reports, the club are looking to loan out Samuel Umtiti to save a gross salary cost of €20 million, and the same applies to Coutinho, who's paid a reported €40 million per season. Even if they do manage to loan out Umtiti, Coutinho and Pjanic, saving €64 million in gross salary payments, they can only reinvest 25% in new signings, because the club's wage bill is currently 110% of its total income, a result of horrendous management during the Bartomeu era. This is before we even take into account that the club are trying to tie down 34-year-old Lionel Messi to a new contract, which given the situation doesn't appear like a wise move. According to Zach, Barcelona's situation means that not only are players like Griezmann a reported target for Man City and Ousmane Dembele up for sale, but also club legends like Busquets and Alba, and hot prospects like Serginho Dest and Araujo. The club is a total mess right now, and we personally can't see how it is possible to reduce their wage bill by €200 million while retaining Lionel Messi. If you want more information on this, we advise you head over to Zach Lowy's excellent Twitter thread. What a complete mess. So guys, that was transfer talk for another week. What did you guys think of the stories, and what do you make of this Barcelona situation? Which one of their rejects do you want to see your club sign? Let me know in the comments down below. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to Football Daily, and click on screen for another great FD video, and I'll catch you next time.